$150 Android tablet versus a $600 iPad Air. Looking at Cyberpunk 2077 here in high frame rate mode, which tablet is going to perform better for Google Stadia? Hey everyone, and welcome to the Cloud Gaming Extreme channel. Today we're looking at Android versus iPad in a showdown here of a T-Pad, the Teclast pad, which I managed to pick up for under $150, which is a 1080p 1900 by 1200 ratio, and I'm absolutely impressed with the quality here. So let's have a look at some input latency, the very scientific method here of showing when I press, and we can see that the latency here with the Bluetooth controller is actually very good. And Stadia was absolutely spot on here, no input latency at all. And we are going to be testing this out and showcasing the latency on tablets with Bluetooth versus Stadia controllers later on, so do check that out soon. But I just really prefer the Series X controller as it's much more universal across devices, and we'll cover that in that controller review as well. But with the Bluetooth controller here on Android, it really was working absolutely superbly, and I'm absolutely stunned by just how good the picture looked here. So let's dive into the game and look around. I am using my phone to record the tablet screen here because the Teclast pad is so cheap. It is unable to handle recording while playing. So that is a downside of the tablet, but if you are just going to be using it to play the cloud services, looking at Google Stadia here, it does run absolutely flawlessly. And the picture quality is absolutely fantastic. No ghosting here, and even in the high frame rate, we're definitely getting that 60 frames per second moving around. So let's move over to the iPad. Now there was a big difference that we could see straight away here, and that is the color definition on iPad. It definitely has more color depth, although as you'll see here, the connection was a huge problem even with the Stadia controller. I did try both this and Bluetooth, but when I first started, I got this horrible latency, and you can see that the input latency here with the controller up as well was absolutely terrible. Now I did look into my network, and one of my kids was streaming Netflix in the house. Although it was only using a quarter of my bandwidth, this put the jitter up on the iPad up to 4.7 milliseconds and caused this horrendous stream lag. So even though I had more than half my bandwidth available, the jitter was just making this unusable. So I did come back to this after the kids were in bed, and my jitter went down to 1.5 milliseconds, and now you will be able to see that and what difference that made to the stream. So now you can see the quality difference on the iPad. So again, we do have a bit better color depth, but the movement around and the input latency is absolutely spot on. Now, another issue that I did actually have with the iPad version, and this really wound me up, is that when we got into the combat, it kept crashing. And it would crash the stream. It wouldn't crash the game completely, but the stream would just quit back to the home screen, and I could just start it back up again and get back into game. But as soon as I started moving around quickly and getting into some of that combat again, it would just quit back out. As I switch back to the T-Pad, again we can see that the colours are a little bit more washed out, but it's really not that bad. I had no issues with this crashing, even in really fast motion and lots of stuff going on in the combat. It really wasn't an issue. So it is worth noting that the Stadia version on iPad using Safari browser definitely has some issues, and the iPad seems to have general issues with jitter if anybody else is using your network at the same time. Whereas the T-Pad, even though it's a much cheaper tablet, handled the Wi-Fi usage much better, and even when I had people streaming on the network, the jitter remained around 2 milliseconds. So let us know in the comments below if you're going to be diving into Stadia on either iPad or Android tablets in the future. But for this, it definitely seemed that the cheaper Android tablet was a much better option for playing Stadia here. Keep your eyes on the channel for more comparisons on various services across these tablets, and also that controller review that I mentioned earlier. If you also want to help the channel out, if you could hit that membership button for $2 a month, you'll really help out the channel. Thanks for watching, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next time.